One thing I want to say first is that, we don't know everything. We both done quite a bit of research. We investigate, we might have a hypothesis and then we draw conclusions. And that's really what everyone should be doing. We'd like to give everybody permission to think critically about the book and challenge your current perspective and reconsider your sort of entrenched views of the book, just to step back. I personally stepped away from even reading the book for about 10 years because I couldn't get out. I felt like I was like a rat on a wheel. And when I went back to it 10 years later, after I had gained more understanding in other areas, I was just amazed. So not that I necessarily recommend that, but it's a good thing to step away from it and then go back with new eyes. I think for me, and this is maybe more of a recent understanding, is seeing the book more as historical prophecy than future prophecy. And that's a hard thing. And that requires you knowing your text, because we know the folks, the audience of the first century knew their text inside and out. They didn't have it written, they had it in their head. So if something was said, they kind of understood where it was and the context of it. So knowing your text, knowing your history, and we'll talk some about that as well. Mm-hmm. And appreciating that Revelation is taking us back really all the way to Genesis, but understanding that historical prophecy, and it's not telling us, I hesitate to even make the statement, but it's really not speaking of things in the year 2525, if you know what I mean.
Right. And I should mention that this comes from a video series you've done, or was it video, audio, both?
Yep,
maybe?
Yep.
Video. Yep.
Okay. So called Revelation Unmasked. And you can actually go to revelationunmasked.com and find their sources and information and a lot of information about this. This is an 11-hour video series. So pretty in-depth, I would imagine. So I didn't get to listen to it all. And it's on, is it on both your sites or just Ryan's site?
No, it's on both. Yeah.
Okay.
We have it. Yeah, I mean, it's long, but it's really even not that in-depth in some ways, because we couldn't go verse by verse.
Right.
So we took big chunks and big themes and talked about that. I mean, it would have been like 65 hours, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Easily.
That's true. Yeah. Well, so dispensationalism and is probably the most popular view that most of the church has been raised with. And I heard you talk about dispensationalism. So if one of you want to explain what it is and where it came from and why we still hold to that view.
Yeah. So dispensationalism, sometimes you might hear it referred to as futurism. It's a viewpoint that we are told that we should read as much as possible, read the Bible as being future to us today. And the term dispensationalism comes from the need that the people saw to have to separate God's way of behaving into dispensations, because they see in the gospel you have this loving Messiah who's forgiving everyone. He's saying, don't fight, love your enemies, lay down your life. And then they turn to the book of Revelation. They ignore, of course, the slain lamb, and they just focus in on all of the blood and the battles, and they put those all in God's hands, killing people. And so, of course, now you have, well, how do you deal with loving Jesus and wrathful God at the end of the book? And they say, well, God must, flip his way of doing things. This really became popular, what was it, around the early 1700s, 1800 in England, or it started out there. And then it comes to America right around the time of the Civil War, right when you have people who are just, in the midst of hell. And they're bringing this message that, that there's this idea of the rapture and all of these things. And of course, it's going to catch on to people who are living in this sort of thing. It gets written into our Bibles. The Schofield Study Bible, for example, puts a lot of notes. And then all of those headings that you see, like the chapter heading or the section heading, that we just assume was part of the original,
Right.
manuscript.
Right.
No,
right.
that was all put in there by dispensational authors, and we don't recognize how much it influences how we understand those sections. And so that's really how it's carried over into America, where it's wildly popular.